Hello, hi viewers and learners. Now, we go to the second part of the lecture on employee-employer relationships, and as I was said, this also means civil servants and government relationships. It also means labor and owner or entrepreneur relationships. In this part of the lecture, we specifically cover the focus of employee-employer relationships. Number one, the scope or the coverage of employee-employer relationships, the relevant laws that govern these relationships, the laws made by the Government of India and various state governments, and we also cover the new labor codes, which are the latest ones. And 2025, the Government of India has moved in the direction of scrapping the existing 29 labor laws and having 4 different codes. This is the scope of the lecture. Now, coming to the labor laws. Labor laws are nothing but the laws made by the government for the proper functioning of the organizations, particularly the industrial organizations. These organizations, if they are not bound by certain laws, might result in the arbitrariness of the employer or the arbitrariness of employees, or maybe the lack of a meeting ground between the employers and employees. So, therefore, the labor laws are very, very important. India has had lots of labor laws. I think in fact, even before independence, we had number of labor laws. Although we were ruled by a colonial government, they passed several acts to regulate the industrial employment, and among these the more important are the Minimum Wages Act 1948, the Payment of Wages Act 1936, the Payment of Bonus Act 1965, the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, Employees Provident Fund Act 1952, the Maternity Benefits Act 1961, Factories Act 1948, Contract Labor Act 1970. Now, if you have a look at these acts, you will be convinced that these law making has been a continuum. Even before independence, we had labor laws. After independence, we have labor laws, and of course, now in place of laws, codes are coming. Let me just explain the intent of these different acts that are on the way out due to the 4 labor codes coming in. The Minimum Wages Act prescribes what are the wages to be paid to the workers. They should not be below a particular par. Now, they cannot be below that. The companies or the employers or the government can pay more wages, but it cannot afford to pay a wage less than that. These minimum wages are revised time to time, and the act that governs these things is 1948, quickly after independence. But even before that, we had an act known as Payment of Wages Act 1936. This act mandates that an employees have to be paid correctly after end of the month, and it mandates that in smaller companies before 7th of the next month, or in larger companies before 10th of the next month, the employees wages have to be paid. Here let me mention that wages generally refer to the blue collared employees, but the government employees are known as white collared employees. The wages in a way might also relate to them. Even in government employment, the wages should not be less than those prescribed by the Minimum Wages Act 1936, which is amended from time to time. There is an act known as Payment of Bonus Act 1965. Under this, the employees originally bonus were paid to employees as a kind of gratis, as a kind of gratitude or the generosity of the owner, the employer to the employees, but later it has almost become mandatory because labor unions have become strong and their bargaining power has increased. So, therefore, there is an act known as Payment of Bonus Act. In addition to wages, salaries, perquisites, etc., the employees have to be paid some bonus. There is Industrial Disputes Act 1947. In case of dispute, how things should go. The Employee Provident Fund Act. The Provident Fund is a fund that is set apart for the future needs of the employees in terms of their emergencies, accidents or deaths of the breadwinner, what should happen for that. There is a fund to which the government makes a little contribution and also employee makes a contribution. This contribution will earn interest, and from that the employee can will get some benefit. There is a Maternity Benefit Act 1965, according to which the maternity leave has to be given to the female employees. The paid wages under the revised Act, 6 months paid leave is given. 6 months leave has to be mandatorily given by employees, female employees, but this is not to an employee on day one, but there is a qualifying service also after that. There is a Factories Act which has a set up inspectors, they can come and inspect conditions. There is also Contract Labor Act. So, these are all the important labor laws. There are actually 29 labor laws. As I mentioned, the Government of India has formulated 4 labor codes. They are known as new labor codes, and these codes replace 29 labor laws, and the implementation date is mentioned as 1st of April. It would have just come into existence. These codes are combining 29 of them, 4 or 5 into one, 6 into another, like that. They have combined them into labor codes. The code 1 is Code on Wages 2019. It standardizes wages and regulates wage payments, and it also has some minimum wage across all sectors. Now, there are different sectors, and for all sectors there are minimum wages prescribed under this code. The second is Industrial Relations Code. The Industrial Relations Code simplifies the dispute resolution. If in case of disputes, there used to be lot of machinery like labor code, this and that. So, now it is simplified, and it covers trade unions and standing orders and disputes. Now, there is Employees Standing Orders Act, under which if there was a dispute between employer and employee, the employer has to go through a procedure. The employee also has to go through a procedure. They cannot do anything they like. So, there is a system, and that is brought into this. There is a Code on Social Security. It consolidates 9 acts, including EPF Act, ESI Act and Maternity Benefits Act, and it extends social security to the employee. Social security means in case they have an accident or there is some death or any such thing, the employee's family should not be on roads, and therefore, something is done. And then Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code is also there, 2020. It regulates safety and conditions of various sectors like factories, mines, etc. Now, the key changes, I think one thing that needs to be mentioned is that labor laws and labor codes make some difference. Labor laws are mandatory. Somebody can go to court of law. So, courts are less compulsive than laws. And if there is a violation of the code, so code is something like a moral one, it is not a legal one. So, there is a regime change from the legal to moral as a result of the enactment of a law for the 4 labor codes. The key changes are the unified filing system is there. The women's employment is also now permitted. They are allowed to work in all types of organizations, including night shifts with consent, and also with the due labor measures. In fact, it is a fact that women have come into employment in a large way, and there are many double earning families to cope up with the rising cost of living. So, it also covers gig economy. Gig economy means the workers, Zomato and all that people who ferry food and articles, you order something, it comes. So, these are not the people working with full time wages and proper security and all that. So, there is need for ensuring safety to them. The gig workers or the temporary workers who are working in so many organizations, now they have formal recognition and social security access, and this is a welcome move. And then there is an inspector cum facilitator to facilitate these things. So, these are now coming to the key changes. The social security is given it extends to gig workers. As I said, there is a mandatory appointment letter for the gig workers. Now, you cannot just employ them without any appointment letter. Once the appointment letter is given, the employee gets some rights in case of some accident or some problem. And workplace equal pay for equal work is now being enforced, and paid leave eligibility is now reduced to 180 days. So, earlier it was more. Now, after 180 days or about 6 months of work, the employee becomes eligible. Now, there are also penalties for taking entitled leave, but these are now banned under the new labor codes, and the compliance is also simplified. I think overall the new labor codes are on the side of the industrialists. I think now there is a feeling in the government that the government has to be a facilitator government. It is not a steering government. So, earlier the belief was that the government has to steer all the developmental activities, but now the private capital has developed in a big way. So, therefore, the government thinks that your job is only to facilitate the industrial development, and therefore, a lesser severe way of handling the industrial organizations has happened. Now, a very prestigious newspaper, Times of India, comments that the Government of India deserves the highest commendation for delivering one of the most significant governance reforms since independence. Now, the paper thinks that it is a very, very important forward move at a time when many nations struggle to balance rapid economic expansion with worker production. India has acted with conviction and clarity. Of course, now coming to the comment part of it, the left wing unions, the communist parties and labor organizations are suspicious. They think that under labor laws, 29 labor laws, they had a better ground. They had some security. If there was some victimization, there was a problem. But now with the new labor codes, these labor codes are not only applicable to government, they are also applicable to private sector also. So, therefore, this is all. So, what we have done is, now we have seen mainly in this part of the lecture the labor laws and labor codes. What were the labor laws, which are the prominent ones, what are the labor codes, how many of them are there, what are the key changes, what is the impact of this, what is the outlook for the future of employer-employee relations in India. Thank you, viewers.